What is up, my shredheads? Welcome back to the channel. I'm so stoked that Ariel Rider Grizzly V2 is finally here. In today's video, we're actually going to be unboxing the V2 Grizzly and also comparing it to the V1 to see what the differences are in the build with the motors, the controllers, the batteries. I'm super excited to test the power of the V2 Grizzly with the dual 1000 watt motors out in the sand dunes, and I hope you guys are too. So definitely stay tuned for that video coming soon. Before we get started on this video, if you guys do want to support the channel, please check out that link down below for the Ariel Rider Grizzly. If the Ariel Rider Grizzly or any bike over at Ariel Rider isn't for you, check out all those other e-bike discount links down below. There might be a bike you like. So if you guys are new to the channel and you enjoy the content, please consider hitting subscribe and hitting that like button. So without further ado, let's get started on this unboxing of the Ariel Rider Grizzly V2 electric bike. First things first, rip that top open like that. And remember, when you guys are unboxing these bike boxes, they do have these huge staples on there, so just be mindful of that. If you're doing it by yourself, this is what it's gonna be like, guys. If you guys look in the box right here, there's a lot of other little boxes in there. So what I'm gonna do is just pull all that stuff out first, and then we can go through all the boxes after I get them all out and we see what they are. All right, let's start off with this little box first. I'm thinking it might be the charger, exactly what I thought it was. Actually, it looks totally different from the V1 charger. And this one actually charges at 5 amps, so it charges pretty quick, not bad. All right, let's go with box number 2, the smallest one in the bunch. Ah, that's the headlight. Heck yeah. I'll leave the plastic on there for now. So everybody knows I did sell my V1 Grizzly, so that thing is already sold, so don't ask me about it. All right, guys, let's go with the final box. This thing feels kind of heavy. What the heck is in here? Toolkit, pedals. Dude, there is another box in there. There's so many boxes. It says extra screws, touch-up paint, your pedals, pegs. Definitely gonna slap those on there. Oh, and I totally forgot to tell you guys, I'm gonna slap the new seat on there also, but when I'm putting the new seat on, I'm gonna look underneath to see what type of controllers the new V2 Grizzly has. Toolkit, I'm gonna use that. If you guys do get your Grizzly bike, make sure you guys read the whole instruction manual and definitely always check your nuts. This has gotta be a second charger. Don't tell me this comes with 2 chargers. That's freaking amazing. If it comes with 2 chargers, let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. It comes with 2 chargers. That's awesome. So when you go on group rides, you can charge at pretty much at 10 amps, really. That actually really hypes me up, guys. Why didn't you tell me it came with 2 chargers? All right, guys, so I'm gonna lay the box down. Make sure when you guys lay the box down, put that flap with the staples down underneath. Actually, both flaps, keep them underneath and just lay it down nice and easy. And I'm laying it down on the non-rotor side, so I don't wanna put any kind of pressure on the rotor to bend it. So now that I have the box laid down, push it back a little bit, and I'm gonna grab the bike and pull straight out nice and easy. Just like that. Get the back out. The V2 Grizzly has made it. I'm gonna keep it laid down. I'm gonna unpackage it like that. Once you guys get all the packaging off, make sure you guys go over the whole bike, inspect for any kind of damage or anything before you put the whole bike together. I actually had that problem once where the bike was actually cracked in half and I put it all together. Everything looks pretty good. The first thing I'm gonna do is put the handlebars on the stem. First things first, we're gonna take this sucker off and we're gonna get the handlebars mounted. I'm so stoked. So I'm just gonna put all the bolts that I just pulled out right back in there so we don't lose them. So I'm gonna make sure we get this on in the right direction. Flip it upside down like that. I'm gonna try to get that nice and centered. Get it to grab a few threads. Now that I have a few threads grab on all of them, I'm just gonna tighten them down a little bit and make sure when you do it in a nice little cross pattern. There we go. I'm just gonna tighten up the pinch bolt a little bit so when I flip it upside down, it doesn't really move too much. 2 pinch bolts, one here and one here. All right, there we go. So now I'm just gonna hold the rear brake. Make sure you don't tap that front brake out, even though this does have one of those little brake spacers in there, just in case you don't wanna clamp those suckers down. Lower that sucker down nice and slow and easy. Make sure nothing's getting crushed. And everything looks good. Front tire on next. It did come with the torque arm, so here's a torque arm. See this little bolt right here? I think I have to pull that out and not lose it. There's a screw on both sides, actually. I thought it was gonna be just one side. All right, guys, so when you mount that on, make sure you get that rotor on the left side if you're upside down. The axle is actually shaped to fit in there, as you can see. Geez, that's so tight. There we go. So as you can see, the little lock nuts on the inside, and then a torque arm right here is on the outside. We're gonna grab this big old 12 wrench. And guys, every 50 miles or so, you definitely wanna check your nuts, because these will get a little bit loose. Nice and tight, guys. Now next is our torque arms. Please don't strip on me. Looks like it's going in pretty well. Heck yeah, man, I'm stoked they actually added the torque arms. All right, that's on there pretty good. And now let's get this side done. That's good enough. I'm gonna connect the motor next. So make sure you pull it on towards the back of the bike. And you're gonna see an arrow here, and you're gonna see an arrow on this side also. Get the arrows lined up, push them together, and then you twist these to tighten them up. There you go. All right, guys, so after I got it tightened down, I just pulled down the cable a little bit to tighten up a little bit closer to the bike. And then you grab this little cable holder and then just kind of pull it off to the side just so it doesn't hit the spokes at all. If you guys ordered your Grizzly and it didn't come with the torque arms, they are sending them to customers. I actually saw it on a Reddit post recently. The next step is we're gonna get this brake caliper on there. You're gonna pull out that little spacer, as you can see right there. You just pull it straight out. Pull out these little bolts first. Now that we got the bolts out, we're gonna wanna slide that brake and get it right behind there. Then you can get your screws started. So this is what's gonna mount your brake onto the bike, and then we're gonna straighten it out after we get it tightened down. Don't forget, when you guys get the bike and you want to ride it right away, take your batteries directly inside and get them charging. There we go. I don't want to over tighten too much. As you can see, they're going to be rubbing. Yeah, they're rubbing. Actually not rubbing too bad. Now what we're going to do to straighten out the brake, we're just going to loosen these two up right here and two. Let's see if they move a little bit. So what I like doing to straighten these out, I like to just eye it out. Actually, that's not rubbing at all. So now that that's like that, I'm just gonna let the wheel spin a little bit and tighten these up very, very slowly to try not to make them shift at all. Still not rubbing. We're doing good, guys. We're doing good. Now we tighten them down. Nice and there we go. There we go, no more rubbing. All right, guys, so the next step is we're gonna flip this bike back over. We're good. All right, can I use the kickstand? Yes, sir. It's an adjustable kickstand. There's a little screw back here you can unscrew and move it up and down. All right, guys, now we're gonna get this handlebar nice and straightened out. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna loosen the pinch bolts and the stem bolt a little bit. So we're gonna get everything loosened up first, and then we're gonna tighten up the stem bolt first and then the pinch bolts last. So make sure you guys do it in that order. So now everything's nice and loose, as you guys can see. So you're gonna wanna straighten this out as perfectly as possible. You don't want this to be crooked at all. So start off with your stem bolt. You don't wanna over tighten the stem bolt too much. There we go. As Matt the mechanic would say, a twist and a ugga. Now that the stem bolt's tight, now we're gonna go down to the pinch bolt. So I'm gonna start off with the pinch bolt right here. So now I'm gonna tighten this one up. I'm gonna go back to this side. Remember, guys, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. There we go. Now that that's tight, we're gonna wanna tighten up the handlebars. Let me get it to like my liking. I want them a little bit closer because I am gonna be putting that extended seat on there, and I'll be able to sit farther back and still grab the handlebars. All right, right there, right there. All right, so I'm gonna, again, when you tighten these up, you definitely do them in a little star pattern or in a cross pattern. All right, now that that is all tightened down, just kind of want to make sure nothing's moving. I'm gonna grab the tire with my legs and kind of just turn it side to side. We're good, not budging. Let's get the pedals on next. These are always gonna be marked with an L and an R. So what I like doing is I just put the wrench right on the pedal and kind of let the bike do the work for you. Sometimes I like to put a little bit of grease on there, but not this time, guys. There we go. Now that that is on there, I guess we're gonna do the fender. Guys, when you put on the fender, this lip right here is facing forward because you want this part to catch all the water that's shooting up on the back side. So on the front's a little Allen key, and on the back you have a little nut. Does that look like it? Yep, that's it. So we're gonna pull this all the way out. Make sure you don't lose the washer. And remember, the lip faces forward. Straight through. Grab your nut, grab your Allen key, grab your wrench. I'm gonna screw the little screw on right here on the back first. Hold the front. Just get that started. That's good. All right, fender is on correctly this time. Now we're gonna get the headlight on, so make sure you find that bag with the extra screws and find these 2 bolts and these 2 nuts in there, and that's for your headlight. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put these little slot thingies on the outside of the mount right there. So then the next step is I'm gonna slide 1 screw on the top and the 2nd screw on the top here on the other side. And we're gonna get the little nuts on the back. Let's get the other one on. I'm probably not going to use this light too much. I'm thinking about maybe get another Wicked Thumb headlight. If you guys are interested in those Wicked Thumb headlights, make sure you check out my links down below for that. Use code Shreddie, get 5% off that headlight. All right, now that we got that kind of tightened down, make sure you're still able to move it up and down a little bit. Now that we got the headlight mounted, here's your connector right here, and here's the other one attached to there. So make sure, again, you look for those arrows on both sides, line them up, boom, and you're connected. Then you can kind of just hide that off to the side like that. And then we can move back down here to the headlight and we'll pull off this beautiful film nice and slow. Boom, just like that. Beautiful. The next step is we're gonna get the pegs on. Got these 2 little Allen screws right here. Make sure you get those suckers out. There we go. There you get your little Allen screws, get them in first, then you can line it up. Boom. All right, next peg. It's a final countdown. All right guys, so the next step is I'm gonna take this seat off and we're gonna put on the upgraded seat from OC Cafe Racer. And this seat, get it out of here. Okay, so we've moved up a lot in power from these controllers. So the old controllers that were in the V1 Grizzly were 22 amp controllers each, and these 2 controllers are 30 amps each. So I don't think I'm gonna have that problem when I'm riding through the dunes and the controllers get super duper hot. So I can't wait to test that out in the dunes for you guys in e-bike science. So stoked about that. So the other thing I did notice was the rat's nest of wiring is not as bad on this as it was on the V1 Grizzly. So that looks a lot cleaner. All right guys, so let's get started on the installation of the OC Cafe Racer seat. It's gonna be really quick. And boom, just like that, we got the upgraded OC Cafe Racer seat. So guys, pretty much the final steps of putting the bike together. I'm gonna fill up the tires with 30 PSI. I'm actually gonna go a little bit over, around 36, and then lower back down to 30, just to get the bead to settle in and set a lot better. Boom, that's done. I'm super stoked. I got the V2 Grizzly together. Now we're gonna do a comparison on the V1 versus the V2 just to see what the differences are. And guys, we've already spotted a bunch of differences by looking at them really quickly, so let's go over it. So this is a battery for the V1 Grizzly, and this is the same, it's a 52 volt, but this one's a 14 amp hour. And check that out, just so you guys can see. The power switch is right there for that one. This is the V2 Grizzly battery. So it's a 52 volt and it's actually a 15 amp hour battery. So you're getting a little more range out of the new batteries on the V2 Grizzly. So if you guys can check it out. Keys right there. Your on and off switch. And then right here is a battery gauge. So you hold that down to see if it's full or empty. And then right here is where you charge it. And as you guys can see underneath, even on the down tube battery connectors, they're totally different. This is the mount for the V1 Grizzly, and there's the battery mount for the V2 Grizzly. As you can see, there are differences. Now we're gonna move to the rear batteries. We're gonna start off with the V1 Grizzly, 52 volt, and this is an 18 amp hour battery. As you can see, the light is right here on the back, and then your battery reader is right here on the side. And on this one, the on and off is underneath, and the charge port is right there. And as you can see, the V1 Grizzly, they both have the same exact charge port. All right, so let's move to the V2 Grizzly battery. It does feel a little bit heavier and it feels kind of better quality. Like the metal on it feels totally different. As you can see, the brake light's actually a little bit smaller than the V1 Grizzly, and it has the battery gauge right here on the back, on and off. And as you can see, this charge port is different than the other battery, so that's probably why they gave us 2 battery chargers. And the one thing I'm hoping with the V2 Grizzly is that it has a daytime running light that gets brighter when you hit the brake, because when you turn on the headlights at night with the V1 Grizzly, this light just stays bright the whole time. It doesn't have like a dimmer setting or a brighter setting when you squeeze the brake. So let's hope it's different on this one. It kind of looks like where it plugs in, they look a little bit pretty much the same shape and everything actually. Together, the new V2 Grizzly has 35 amp hours combined with the 20 amp hour battery and the 15 amp hour battery. And the V2 Grizzly combined batteries are 32 amp hours. So you get a few more amp hours on the V2 Grizzly. And as you guys can see, this is the V1 Grizzly where the battery goes in, and this is the V2 Grizzly port. So pretty much the same exact one. And another difference is this little track where the battery slides in is actually different than the V1. This is the V2 Grizzly. Here's the V1 Grizzly. Here's another difference, the torque arms. So the torque arms came on both sides of the wheels for the V2 Grizzly, but the V1 Grizzly, it did not come with these torque arms. So that'll keep your wheel from popping out when you're jumping up and down, and it'll also keep your motor from slipping and spinning and then pulling the wires out. And next is the differences in motors. So this is the V2 Grizzly motors. It comes with dual 1000 watt motors compared to the V1 Grizzly where you have dual 750 watt motors. And again, the other 2 differences that I did mention were the controllers. That one has dual 30 amp controllers, and the V1 has dual 22 amp controllers. So that's gonna have more power and more speed. And also guys, with the new controller, the bike is gonna be more efficient. It's not gonna get hot as easy as the V1 did. This is a V1 Grizzly. I have the Wicked Thumb headlight on there. I put my own mount on there, but this is the original mount that came on the V1 Grizzly compared to the V2 Grizzly. So here's the suspension on the V2 Grizzly. It does have adjustable suspension, so you'll be able to adjust it to your liking. That's pretty awesome. So right here on the crown, I noticed the color is actually totally different. This is kind of like, I want to say almost like a magenta red, as opposed to the V1 Grizzly with like a lipstick, like a bright red. This one doesn't have the adjustable suspension. Here's another thing that I noticed. If you move in right here to the stem, the neck of the bike right here, they raised it up a little bit. So they added 2 extra little risers on there. So if we go over here and check out the V1 Grizzly, it doesn't have that. So it's a little bit lower. So I'm thinking you might have a little more comfortable stance on the V2 Grizzly compared to this one. Here's another cool difference right here on the throttle. Same thing, it has a half twist throttle. And also this button right here, if you press it, it actually cancels out the throttle. So you only have pedal assist, and you press it again, you turn it back on. And another difference that I actually really love about this is that on the end bars, you can pull them out and put mirrors on there. Here's the V1 Grizzly. Pretty much you would have had to cut that out yourself. And also check out the throttle. It looks a little bit different too. Look at that, the pattern on this one. This is the V1 Grizzly throttle, and check this out. That's a V2 Grizzly throttle. I think this is going to be more comfortable than the V1, because I remember this throttle actually, those little things kind of start hurting your hand after a while of grabbing them if you don't have gloves on. Here's the V2 Grizzly, and also the suspension's a little bit different color, and you can also adjust the suspension on the rear. Same thing with the V1 Grizzly. You can still adjust the suspension with that. I don't know if this is like really much of a difference, but check this out. The pedals are different branded. This is called Pro Wheel Solid, and they look like they're about the same length. So these are 170s. And the V1 Grizzly has the ounce pedals on it, and these are also 170s on the V1. Same exact display, same shifter, V1 display, V2 display. Here's a V1 shifter, same thing, Shimano 7-speed. Here's a V2 Grizzly, Shimano 7-speed shifter. And then same thing on the derailleur, it's a Shimano Altus on the rear, and same exact on the V1 Grizzly. And here's the brakes on the V1 Grizzly. They're called Tektro Auriga Comp. And the V2 Grizzly, it just says Tektro on the brakes. Here's the bell on the V2 Grizzly, and here's the bell on the V1 Grizzly. The V2 wins. And here's all your buttons on the V2 Grizzly. Here's the V1 Grizzly, pretty much all the same stuff going on. And check this out, guys. I noticed they routed the wires through the frame on the V2 Grizzly, opposed to the V1 Grizzly. As you can see, the wires run under here. To me, it seems like the sprocket on the V2 might be a little bit bigger right here on the front. Here's my whole hand on the V2 Grizzly front sprocket. Here's my whole hand on the V1. So it looks like I can kind of grab almost around the whole V1 So maybe it's got a little more teeth on the front. If you guys know, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And as you can see, here's the V1 Grizzly. The treaded tires are pretty much exactly the same as the V2 Grizzly, but these are just brand new. That's why they look so meaty. Even sitting on the bike, it feels totally different than the V1 Grizzly. Like even your arms are a little bit higher. It feels a little more comfortable. And even the brakes feel a little bit better quality than the V1 Grizzly, so I'm pretty stoked about that. All right guys, now we're done with all the differences. I'm getting these batteries on the charger, so guys stay tuned for the next video where we do the first ride and review on the V2 Grizzly. Guys, if you have any ideas or anything you guys want to see me do on the V2 Grizzly, any tests, definitely drop them down in the comments below. So guys, again, if you want to support the channel, please check out that link down below for the Ariel Rider Grizzly. If the Grizzly is not for you, check out all those other e-bike discount links down below. There might be a bike you like. Guys, I'm super stoked to get started on the V2 Grizzly and just show you guys what that thing is all about. So if you guys enjoyed the content and found it helpful, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and ringing that notification to be notified when I'm making videos. And are you guys ready for the moment of silence for the subscribe button? In 3, 2, 1, hit subscribe, heads down. All right guys, I'll see you in the first Grizzly ride.